Well, let's go ahead and get started. Thank y'all for taking this class after lunch, all right? We're going to do our best to keep you awake and have fun. My name is Nathan Buchanan, and for the last year, I've been the volunteer coordinator for Texans on Mission. And I'll explain a little bit about who we are, all those things in just a moment. I'm a father of currently, and I say currently because we're a foster family, of 5. I've got 3 girls that are in college or beyond. I was part of the Girl Club, Guys Incapable of Reproducing Lads, for most of my life. That's good. Come on in. And so it was me, my wife, and our 3 girls for a long time. And then we adopted our son in 2017. He's now 9. His name is Jackson. And then we have another foster son currently who's 6 years old with us. And so, but my 3 girls, 2 of them at Howard Payne University. One plays basketball for Howard Payne, and the other one just graduated from Howard Payne and is coming to Baylor for PT school after she gets married in December. So a lot of stuff happening in our lives. Prior to, come on in, being volunteer coordinator at Texans on Mission, I served as pastor for 14 years at First Baptist Mineral Wells, and then youth ministry about 20 years before that, all the way back with Tricia at Deer Park, First Baptist. So many years ago. So glad to be a part. But Texans on Mission Network, and Texas Baptist Men. That name might sound a little more familiar than all those things. So let me dive right in to who we are and what we do. And as mentioned, I'm going to try to do this with our paperwork. So we did begin just a brief snapshot of who we are, Texans on Mission Network, and Texas Baptist Men. We began in 1967 with a group of men. This is very creative how they came up with their name. A group of men from Texas that happened to be Baptist decided there was a need for a hot meal to those affected by Hurricane Beulah. It was 1967. It came through the Gulf of Mexico, and it hit Brownsville area. So they took a number 10 size can. You know what I'm talking about? Of vegetables. It's about commercial size can of vegetables, fruit, and they turned that into a cooking utensil. They put a candle underneath it after they pulled some things around, opened up the lid, cooked an egg and bacon on top, and a piece of toast on the side. They called it a buddy burner. So that's how we began, and from 1967 we've been connected with major disasters all around the world, not just in Texas, in the United States, and also around the world. We're also a part of helping other states develop their disaster relief response networks. So that's how we began in 1967. Since then, though, one of the biggest questions we've received over the years is, can women serve with Texas Baptist Men? What do you think? Yes. In fact, 43% of our volunteers are women. And so we decided, you know what, we need to do something about that. We need to remove that obstacle. We need to help make that clearer. And in that time, in that process, also, God's been enlarging the tent, if you will, of Texas on Mission, or Texas Baptist Men at the time. And other organizations have wanted to be a part, other denominations have wanted to be a part of what we do. And so specifically in the Global Methodist area, and others have called and says, can we be a part of Texas Baptist Men? And we said, yes, you can. And so do you love Jesus? Do you want to tell people about Jesus? Do you want to help those affected by disaster? Then yes, let's bring those on. And so that's one reason why we changed our name to Texans on Mission. And then God just kept blessing. And God kept encouraging others to be a part. And then we started getting phone calls from people outside of Texas. And they said, can we be a part of Texans on Mission? We're not from Texas, but we want to be a part of what God's doing and helping to bring help, hope, and healing to those affected by disaster. One of the most recent events would be, say, those California wildfires. We had groups from California, some large churches out there, who said, hey, we know you guys do good work. Can you help us develop teams to go in and help those affected by the fires? So with that being said, they said to us, we're not Texans. How can we do that? So we created another arm, if you will, called On Mission Network. So if you see in this presentation, Texans on Mission, Texas Baptist Men, or On Mission Network, just know we're all working together to accomplish what God has in store for us. And let me again, here's a video, it tells you a little bit more about disasters.
Each year, there seems to be more and more disasters. That's because there are hurricanes, floods, fires, windstorms, tornadoes, wars. This feels like too many in a row. In the aftermath, people are hurting. They're crying. Their homes have been destroyed, possessions lost, property damaged. You see the images of people struggling to rebuild their lives. They are seeking help, food, water, comfort, guidance, hope. You see the need. You want to help. Now you can. Texans on Mission has equipped people just like you to serve those in need since 1967. Together, we meet crucial needs and offer practical help in the immediate aftermath of a disaster. Together, we pray with and encourage disaster survivors and those seeking to build a relationship with Christ. Together, we provide clean drinking water for people around the world and build sustainable, gospel-centered communities. Together, we undertake construction projects that help build God's kingdom. Together, we help raise future leaders dedicated to godly service. In a world full of hurting people, every Christ follower is called to be on mission with God each day. In an hour, a day, or a few days, you can have a tangible impact by using your gifts and talents for God's purpose. Every person has a role in God's kingdom, and Texans on Mission wants to help you find it today. Together, we're on mission for God's glory, bringing help, hope, and healing to a hurting world.
So as we dive into who we are, what we do, and how you or how we can help others connect and bring help, hope, and healing to those affected by disaster, note that at any point you got a question, you want to dive in a little deeper, let's go ahead and do that. Let me first say that I am not Rand Jenkins. If you came in here looking for Rand Jenkins, he's on the list. Sorry, he is our CEO of our On Mission Network, but got stuck in New Mexico when his truck broke down yesterday and said, Nathan, I know you're near Waco, can you go and speak for me? So I'm going to do that, and glad to be a part of that today. I've been with him, like I said earlier, about a year, so some of this stuff I'm learning as I go along, but I have been connected with Texans on Mission or Texas Baptist Men for a long time. Been on their board as a pastor, and then also part of Texans on Mission is Royal Ambassadors. Anybody familiar with Royal Ambassadors? Some, okay. Royal Ambassadors, mission organization, long time. About a kid at First Baptist Deer Park was part of our Royal Ambassadors missions organization group. So anyway, that's who I am, and this is who we are. We are volunteers first and foremost. We are a volunteer organization. We probably have 3,000 active volunteers, and if you go to a deployment with us, you ever show up, and we were in Kerrville probably, July 4th, when that flood came in, we were there by that weekend, by the, what does that be, the 6th, 5th, 6th, or 7th, and we had a full deployment there partnering with churches, and we'll talk more about that. Trinity Baptist Church opened up their parking lot and their church to us. We brought in an incident command trailer, and then we brought in our feeding team, we brought in chaplains, we brought in shower and laundry, we brought in, and then mud out teams, people to go into people's homes and help clear out the flood damage. And all of those things, those are all volunteers, even up to the point of our unit leaders. We'll have yellow caps as our base, if you will, volunteer who goes out and does the work. Each yellow cap has one blue cap that's in charge of their team. And then all the blue caps have one white cap, our incident commander, who's over the whole command deployment center. So I am on staff. We probably have about 30 people on staff. But when we go to deployments, that incident commander is the one in charge. They're the ones that are communicating with all the government agencies. They're communicating with the other groups within those areas and helping to coordinate, not to be a burden, but to be a help to those affected by disaster. So we are a volunteer organization, long-term, sustainable. In fact, we are still talking about long-term in Kerr County. No longer are we doing the mud outs. We are now doing the rebuild work. We're coming back with teams, volunteers, and maybe this is one of you to be a part of that. In fact, Baylor themselves have come out twice. The faculty of Baylor has gone to San Angelo to do some mud out work, and then just recently some of the SERV students went to Kerr County and did some of that. So we're still there, locally led, development teams. Training, we do a lot of training and equipping people before they go so they know what to do when they get there, able to do that right, not only in Texas, but as I mentioned, U.S. and around the world. We've been serving in Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, and we have a partnership with Israel. Back probably about 6 or 7 years ago, we began that process, and when the attack October 7th a couple years ago happened, we were there within a couple of days with teams helping to bring help, hope, and healing. So we deploy, though, with and through the local church. We're not trying to be a church. We realize that God has brought churches to be a part of bringing the good news to people. We partner with churches to help the mission of God and the kingdom to grow.
Nathan, what
Yes.
is the beginning age of a volunteer?
Yes. So we do ask for 18 and older to be a part of our trained volunteers, but we will take younger on specific youth trips, and then we will take 16 and 17-year-olds with us to go on deployments with a parent or a guardian. You bet. Good question. So On Mission Network enables an active faith by mobilizing Christ followers to deliver help, hope, and healing in the aftermath of disasters. And just an example, this lady's name, you can't see her face, but the pink shirt, her name is Claudia. She was affected by Hurricane Helene, and this is part of her garage there that you can see. You can see where the water came up about a foot or two, and there, all the mud that was there, the river just ran right through the street. Thankfully, her house, which is the middle picture to the left there, was not affected, but that white building was totally filled with mud, and there was another outbuilding that was actually lifted up and moved from the water that came through. She lost her husband about 6 months prior, and her husband had done some remodeling work with cars, built cars, kit cars, those kind of things, and you can kind of see a lot of his tools were just filled with mud. And so we cleaned out her garage. She was saving stuff for a garage sale, lost most of that. And I asked her as I was walking by her, I said, so are you happy with the work that we're doing? And she looked at me and said, I hadn't been happy since the flood until today. And so that's just a little bit about what we get to do to be able to help them as they face these kind of disasters within their lives, help bring that help, hope, and healing. So let me ask you, this is your response time. What is a disaster? We know what disasters are: hurricanes, earthquakes, those examples of them, but how would you define a disaster? You might have never thought about that question, but how would you define it? What are some elements, things that you think might be part of a definition?
Totally disrupts your life.
Totally disrupts your life, you bet. What else?
Unexpected.
Unexpected, yes. You don't plan for disasters to happen, right?
Significant loss of life.
Yes, significant loss of life.
Destruction of something you thought was permanent.
Yes, destruction of something you thought was permanent. Good, very good. So American Red Cross made a definition, and this is what they said. They said a disaster is an occurrence that causes human suffering or creates human needs that the survivors cannot alleviate without assistance. I was sharing this definition with a group a while back, and someone was talking about disasters. They said, so we've always talked about, my parents have said, my room was a disaster. And if you look at my 9-year-old kid's room right now, I could probably say that. But if I look at that definition, it's nowhere close what a true disaster brings upon people. Suffering. I was talking to a kids group Wednesday about it. I said, tell me what suffering is, you know, and how does a first grader, third grader experience suffering? You know, they a little bit of things, loss of an animal, loss of something. We kept going to the idea of loss, so we talked about that, some great losses. But causes human suffering, creates human needs that, again, you cannot alleviate without assistance. You need help. And in that kids group, I said, okay, pretend you are falling on the ground. So I had a kid lay on the ground. I says, you can't get up. You can't do it without help. And then all of a sudden I said, who wants to help? And then there was a whole group of kids, about 5 of them ran over there and about yanked her arms off trying to get her up. And to say that, I share that to say sometimes we are like that. We go over there and we want to help them, and we just start yanking on things. We start doing things, and sometimes if we're not paying attention, we can cause more harm, right, than help. So Texans on Mission has a way of doing things that helps bring about that help, hope, and healing in an orderly manner, in a way that's not a burden, but a help in that. And so as we think about a disaster, that's what we think about. So how do we respond to that? And talking about us, this is how we have chosen to respond. We do several different specialties. There's a sheet back in the back. It lists all of our different specialties that we're a part of. I'll go through some of those here, but one of the things that we provide is a shower and laundry service. When the fires hit California, we sent a whole laundry unit out there, and people would bring their bags of clothes that they had and drop it off in the morning. And some didn't have much, so what they had was 2 or 3 sets, maybe one set, and whatever we had, we would wash for them that morning and all day long, and then by the evening they could come back and pick it up. Providing showers for those in need. We had fires that hit Possum Kingdom Lake up there in the west of Fort Worth not too long ago. We provided showers for firefighters to come in and use. We also provide this for our own volunteers. So if you volunteer with us, we tell you to bring 3 or 4 sets of clothes. And you might stay a week, you might stay 2 weeks, depending on what your time frames allow, but then we will wash your clothes so that's ready to go when you need it for the next time around. So shower and laundry. Flood recovery, you can see this is what definitely was needed in Kirk County, San Angelo. Actually, the flood went all the way from San Angelo to Canyon Lake, if I remember right. So good distance of space. A lot of area was affected. San Angelo, I think, had close to 700 homes affected by the flood. Didn't get, of course, the media coverage that other areas did, but we're still working whatever. We just want to help bring that help, hope, and healing to those that need it. And so flood recovery, they'll go in and you can see they'll rip out the sheetrock. They know where to rip up too. They don't go above where they need to go. They know where they need to go to get all the wetness out so we can take care of the mold and the mildew. And then from where as well, if we have tornadoes that have left trees. In fact, Kerrville, because of the flood, a lot of trees were damaged. And so we've got heavy equipment that will come in and help bring relief there and help remove debris. Chainsaw teams, and these chainsaw teams, as the guy with the rigging represents, they know what they're doing. There is basic chainsaw training, advanced chainsaw training, roofs and ladders training, man lift training, rigging training. So they know how to lay a tree right where they want it to lay. I was serving them in Poplar Bluff not long ago, and there was a tree on the house. It was about a full day, actually 2 days work. They were lopping off the different limbs. One day, second day, they started cutting it back away from the house, using riggings and setting it up off the house. And then because of where everything was in from a other tree to a mailbox to lights, they set the man lift and everything set in a certain way. And when they cut it in a certain way, it fell a certain way, and then they dragged a certain way. Amazing of what they can do. Really lay it down right where they want it to go. And so these chainsaw teams are amazing. So is our fire recovery team. Been recently in Hawaii with their fires, and then of course California in their fires. And they'll come through with the right equipment that's needed to keep them safe as they go through. In the California fires, the government actually didn't allow many people back in to their homes. And when they did, they gave them about 4 hours to go in and find anything that they could possibly find. And so our teams partnered with those homeowners and would go in, and they made these sifting boxes and then these 5-gallon buckets, and for the 4 hours sift through, finding some memento. Think about it, you've lost everything. You know, if you could just find that ring, you could find just that dish, you could find something from that. And so that's what they would do. And then mass feeding. We have the capability currently to feed somewhere around 100,000 meals a day if we put every bit of our kitchen materials together and all of our different supplies and
Say that
volunteers.
again.
100,000 meals a day. We'll partner with people like Red Cross, Salvation Army, and others to get the meals distributed, but we can do mass feeding. And not only that, they also do volunteer feeding as well. So we're always looking for people to come alongside of it. And then many others. We have an incident management team, as I mentioned, the White Cap, that they know what they're doing. They plan all of the things. When the calls come in, they manage the requests from the homeowners who need help, to assigning those to the teams, to putting those on the map so we know where they are, so we can get our teams to try to do one and the next one and not have to cross the city, but able to accomplish all they can in an effective manner. They're leading those teams. We also provide clean water solutions, temporary roofing. Now, I'll highlight temporary roofing. That word temporary is supposed to be temporary. We've gotten calls a year later that says, hey, my blue tarp roof has come off. Can you come back and put it back on? Temporary roofing. But when that's needed, it's needed. But one of the neatest ministries and one of the simplest ministries, and your church and team can do this very easily, is the box ministry. It's what the box ministry is just as soon as a disaster happens and as soon as it's clear and ready for people to come in, this team goes in with a box truck full of boxes. And again, if you're hit with flood, you're hit with fire, you're hit with anything, and you want to get your stuff that you can get it, what do you need? Boxes. And any boxes you might have is probably ruined from the flood or the fire to begin with. So we bring boxes in, and then while we're there, we pray with them, and we share Jesus with them. And so box ministry. That includes packing paper and other things. You've got a card, or if you did, back there in the back, there's a card, and it says First Step Kits, Hands-On Mission. And that's an opportunity to do that, and Go bracelets. But another part of Hands-On Mission that you can do is messages of hope. What that is just packing paper, or maybe even 3x5 index cards, writing a prayer, writing a message of hope, writing a Bible verse, drawing a picture. The kids from the children's program on Wednesday night that I spoke at, they did that for about 20 minutes and just did some great things. And so when we're passing out boxes, we'll pass out those messages of hope to people along the way. Chaplaincy services, responders, services to survivors and responders. In Kirk County, we sent quite a few chaplains, ministered to many of those folks. Electric and electronic support. Electric would be like setting up electricity issues and providing that for folks. Electronics would be video cameras. We set up asset protection, which is also on there, and we set cameras up on our deployment area. So a lot of ways that you could use. Just think about your gifts, talents, your abilities. Think about others' gifts, talents, and abilities. And there are ways that you can do and serve. But in all those things, we always try to remind folks that, yes, we're there to help remove the tree off your house. Yes, we're there to help clean the flood damage from your home. But more importantly, we're there to tell you about Jesus. So we will put down the chainsaw. We'll stop with the wheelbarrows. We'll take a break from the laundry if it means we can share Jesus with just one more person. So why do we exist? As I already mentioned, share Jesus. Disaster disrupts lives. It comes. It's not a matter of when disaster, or if disaster, but when disaster, right? It's not a matter of when it's going to happen, or if it's going to happen, but when it will happen. Homes get destroyed, families get displaced, communities are overwhelmed, and the church steps in. And God provides the opportunity for churches to do that. And yes, it will, as we've already talked about here, kind of beyond us, as you think about it, get you out of your comfort zones. Where we stay in churches usually, sometimes camps, other places that might open up, schools. We sleep on the floor, on air mattresses, cots. It's usually guys in a room, girls in another room. Sometimes it's one big gym with a big black tarp in between. And yes, you do hear others snore. You hear other people along the way, but it does break you out of your comfort zones. Your schedules. We've had a lot of people over the years says, I want to go, and they would go through our training, but then when the time comes, that's when those hard decisions come. What am I going to do with my schedule? I've got some test I've got to do. I've got some doctor's appointment. I've got some other thing. How do I do that? I don't have a ton of vacation. Am I going to take my vacation for something like this? And so I encourage people before that call comes, because we will send out calls, we will send out emails saying, hey, we're going. Who can go? You need to make up that decision. Am I willing to sacrifice? Am I willing to put something away? Am I willing to contribute some of my time, my schedule, to go and make those things? Your preferences as well. I don't like to sleep on air mattresses, but I do like to go and serve others. And so we do have to give up our preferences. And into the lives of hurting people, of course, we want to be a part of that. It brings the church right outside. of their walls. It unites denominations, not just, again, why we changed our name from Texas Baptist Men. It's not just about Baptists. It's about all of us coming together to tell people about Jesus. It offers a community living testimony, shows the love of Christ beyond Sunday worship. This is a house there in Kerr County after some people came in and took stuff out. I don't think this was us, because if we would have done it, it would have been all in that bin and not on the floor. But sometimes others came in. In fact, Kerr County was one of those places. They had, according to Texas Department of Emergency Management, 33,000 people called them and said, we want to help serve. 33,000. They didn't have a process for really managing that many people. They asked us, how can we help? We sent them a couple programmers, and the programmers sitting down with Texas Department of Emergency Management helped program a new system to receive that amount of people so that they can then say, okay, we know who you are, we know what your gifts are, or what you're willing to do, and if the need arises, we will match you and give you a call. So they helped coordinate that, 33,000 people. We had our numbers of people who called, churches that called. We want to come, we want to help. And so, anyway, this is one of those places. And I'll tell you, here's one of our teams that actually went into a house. And this house was not only across the river, but it was across the road and still several hundred feet past the road. And you can see how tall it got. It got up almost above the doors in this house. And that counter was the counter that the homeowner and his wife stood holding their dogs and animals in their hands, surviving this disaster. Now, some people have said, I'm too old to serve. This gentleman and his grandson, this gentleman is Dr. Pena, 90 years old, first time to come and serve in Kerrville because his grandson said, hey, I'm going to serve. You coming with me? And the grandpa said, no, I'll pray for you. He said, no, I want you to come with me. And they came and was able to serve and did a great job and a wonderful job. Again, there's another picture of just how tall that was in that household. Texans on Mission Network reaches beyond Texas. As already mentioned, wildfire in California, water crisis in Arkansas, mental health care there in Poland, water wells in Uganda, India, Peru. Our water impact department has a goal of drilling 100 wells a year. They did probably about 70 in Uganda last year, another 30 in Peru, and others off on. We have people, in fact, colleges that are wanting to help engineers go, but more than that, we're looking for churches and people who come alongside of these who are drilling the wells. It's a three-part system. It's not just drilling the well. It's the first part is Bible studies, so they're spending times helping people know about Jesus, do the Bible studies. Then they drill the well, part 2. Part 3 is they develop micro businesses for them and a fund that helps sustain the well. And we've got a great track record of at least 5 years of these wells being viable wells. Used to be about a year, and then the part breaks. They didn't know what to do with it. They'd go find another part off another well and try to make it work. But now we've got that set up to where when pieces break, they have the funds to buy those new pieces. They have the know-how to put that back together, and it keeps their wells sustainable. So, now that you've heard a little bit about us and things, why should we go? What's the command to go? What's God's thought on that? Something that's good for somebody else to take care of? Something that we are to be a part of as a Christian body? You bet. God has called us to do that. And if I look at the theology of going beyond, right, we look to the first person there with us, Jesus. Right? Jesus came to serve. He left heaven, right? He was born of a virgin, placed at the Holiday Inn, right? Holiday Inn? No. Comfort Inn? Sleep Inn? No. The manger, right? Something even lower than anything we possibly think of when it comes to a place to stay. And he came to serve. And God calls us to do the same. He calls us to be a part of that, and he empowers us through his Spirit. So Jesus, as I thought about some of the things that he did and some of the things that we do, he fed the multitudes, right? We think about the 5,000, the 4,000 that he fed. He took care of those with just meager types of things, 2 fish, loaves. Took all of that, and he was able to feed over 5,000 people. We had the women and the children, because some people think some around 15,000 people were fed in the feeding of the 5,000 story and account. Right? So Jesus did that. And we can do that. As I mentioned, we can feed up to 100,000 meals a day, but even beyond that, we don't have to use all that equipment. We can find other ways to do that. Churches open up their kitchens. There in Kerr County, we had a church, Mission 66 Church, Route 66 Mission, that's what it was, I think. And they just said God called the pastor in the church to go feed the first responders, feed the volunteers. They went to Walmart and bought some of these Blackstone grills, and then they just started going to H-E-B and picking up whatever food they could, and they were going around cooking and providing a meal for folks. And in that time, somebody donated Texans on Mission 800 pounds of potatoes. I don't know where those potatoes came from. And I don't know how they got on the truck from Dallas, where our headquarters are, to Kerr County, to Kerrville, but they did. And they showed up, and they gave it to our blue cap who was doing the feeding team. And he looked at me and said, "What do I do with 800 pounds of potatoes? I can make mashed potatoes. We can do baked potatoes." In my mind, I'm thinking of the Forrest Gump shrimp thing, over and over different ways to do that. And he even said something about potato ice cream. Yeah. I was like, I don't know about potato ice cream. I don't know. And then I got this call from this pastor, and he said he was making breakfast tacos. And I said, "Could you use potatoes?" He said, "You bet. What time you want me over there?" And I think he picked up 400 or 500 pounds of our potatoes and was able to use that. And so God knew.
It's a beautiful picture.
Isn't that a beautiful picture? God told somebody to give us potatoes. And we didn't say no. If they would have asked me, I probably would have said no. Because what do you mean? What am I going to do with 800 pounds of potatoes? My car won't hold 800 pounds of potatoes. All right? So, but they said yes. One of the things Texas on Mission is, and one of our values is looking for ways to say yes. If there's a need, if there's something there, how can we say yes? So somebody said yes. And then somebody had the notion of sending it to Kerrville. So they did. And then it got there, and God knew what he was doing. And this gentleman took the potatoes and kept feeding people. And so Jesus fed the multitudes. We are about, if you're hungry, you can't think of much else. You lost your kitchen. Imagine that. Imagine you lose your house or your kitchen, the ability to cook for your family. You go back to the basic needs, food, shelter, right, protection. So you go back to those things. So we do that. Jesus healed the sick. We can't heal the sick, but we can help them find out if they are sick, they're in need of some medical condition. We can help them with that. But we can also just come beside them and put our arms around them. We don't know what it feels like to lose a home, but we do. I want you to know that you're not alone in this. And we can help them there. And Jesus cared, of course, for people's emotions before fulfilling their spiritual needs. But ultimately, he did come, right, to save them. Jesus came to seek and to save those who were lost. And ultimately, those are needed as well. And so when you fed them, when you've taken care of their need, and when they start asking you, "Why are you here? Oh, wait a minute. How much do we pay you for this? Is this going to cost us anything?" And we tell them nothing. We don't charge a dime. It doesn't cost you anything for us to do the work. They're like, "Well, why did you come?" Well, let us tell you why. Because somebody, his name is Jesus, gave his life for us, gave a gift. And we're called to give that same gift, give our lives to him, to others. By the way, other people come in, and we've seen this, where they'll come in, not Christian organizations, of course, but business groups or others come in and will charge a large amount of money for some of these services. We ran into one lady in San Angelo who got charged $5,000 to remove the sheetrock and insulation from her house, and then they wanted to charge her another $30,000 to put the stuff back in. And she had just lost her husband as well about 6 months prior. And we talked to her and said, "No, we're not charging you a dime. This won't cost you anything. Others have already paid the price." And then I started visiting with her and said, "Do you go to church anywhere?" "Well, I'm a believer, but I haven't been to church in years. Something bad happened in a church one time. We decided not to go." And I said, "Well, guess what? We're staying at such and such church." It was Emmanuel Baptist Church there in San Angelo. The pastor is a great guy. I'd love for you to meet him. They'd love to come out. Can they come and visit you? Yes, they can come and visit us. And so I passed on the name to the church, and prayerfully and hopefully they were able to visit her and hopefully gave her a new step forward. and a relationship with Jesus Christ and people. So that's why we do what we do, and Jesus did that, and he calls us to be his hands and feet. James 2:15-16 speaks to us about this. So again, what does the Bible say about our work? Suppose a brother and a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to him, "Go, I wish you well, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is that? Bob Dixon, he was one of the original Texas Baptist men, one of those original groups, said this: when the world sees things happening through God's people that cannot be explained except that God himself has done them, then the world will be drawn to the God they see. You know, that's what I think it's been my heart. As pastor for 14 years, youth minister for another 20 years before that, I've come to realize my calling in my life has been to foster transformation. If I were to define those in 2 words, is to foster transformation. I don't bring transformation, God does, but I can encourage that. As youth minister, I did that for teenagers, for parents, as pastor for our larger congregation and group, and now as volunteer coordinator. It's been my hope and my heart that others as well would find their callings and use their gifts and talents to be transformed by God themselves and to help others experience that transformation. And I think what happens when we answer God's call in our lives, 3 things happens. 1, God receives the glory. First and foremost, that's all we want, God to receive that glory. Second thing happens is others are helped. Right? Others find help. So when Texans on Mission comes and they find a need, the tree's fallen in their house, they help remove that tree. We want God to receive the glory, but we also want that person to be helped. And the third thing happens, and that is we find joy and satisfaction. We find a peace. We find this thing that comes into our lives when we serve. Y'all have experienced that, no doubt, before in your lives. When you just help somebody, imagine, just thinking through, going through a drive-through, buying your meal and pay for the meal behind you, and see if you can slow down just enough to see the reflection on somebody's face when they realize that their meal was covered. And that happens every day when we go. And like the lady, Miss Claudia, I hadn't been happy since the flood until today. And when we get to do that, we get to say why we do what we do. It's all because of God, because of him. And they get to see, like it says, then the world will be drawn to the God they see. So finally, as we get ready to wrap up some things, I'll let you ask any more questions you have. I won't keep you the full time. But how does someone get involved? How do you get involved? A couple things that you can do with us. Of course, we provide training. I'll give you a QR code at the end, or it's on the back of my card, or you can go to our website, Texans on Mission, or even On Mission Network. Any of those websites will get you the right spot. We provide training for people. We like for people to go through training. Again, it connects what we do with other people in the same way. Chainsaw, for instance. Someone says, I've used a chainsaw my whole life. Why do I need to take your chainsaw training? Well, you're good at probably using your chainsaw out by yourself in your field, your house, or wherever you go. But when you put 5 people in a yard, all with chainsaws, you put a skid steer, you put people with ropes, you put branch managers. That's what we affectionately call those who are dragging branches, branch managers. You put all those people in a place. You've all got orange caps on, your hard helmets, you got your chaps on, you're doing all those things. We just need to make sure we coordinate and do well with that. And so we train it on all those things. So we provide that training. Food handling as well. We don't want anyone to get sick, so we're going to do it a certain way. We're going to make sure all the utensils stay clean. We're going to provide all of those things so that everybody stays safe and we're all on the same page. So we'll provide training. There's 2 trainings that we require. One is an orientation training, and then the second one is a specialty training. Specialty, again, any of these specialties that fits your heart, your desire, your passions, and you can be a part of that. So we have our trained yellow cap person like that, and then you get put onto a team. All across the state of Texas, even the nation, we'll find you a team. You get put on a team. When they get called out, they say, hey, we're going to these dates, can you come? And you can say, I can come for all of that, I can come for part of that, or I can't come, but I can come next week. Is there another team coming? And then they do a kind of a quick trade and go, okay, you're not coming with us, but you're going with this other team. And go from there. So you can do that. You can support with your time, your skills, resources. Non-deployment events happen all the time. We have feeding events. We fed at a recent Battle of the Bands group. These were actually, when I think about bands, I'm not talking about a rock band or any of those things. I'm talking about actually trombones, trumpets, drums, all those things that come along with that. We've shared with churches, have done other events and other things, so you can support local groups. In fact, right now, today, I believe, a chainsaw group's come to First Baptist Mineral Wells, taking down 2 30-foot sycamore trees that are reaching over probably a 2-lane road, quite a bit of both lanes. And we're just thinking one day a limb's going to fall right on top of some car, so we've got to take that down. So they're coming to do a community support group and receive just the community area and take down those trees. And then, of course, you can share your story and tell the story and ask others to be a part. Churches can get involved. They can host trainings at churches. If your church would like to do that, just talk with me. They can be a staging hub, which just means if a disaster happens in your area, you could say, hey, come use our church. You can stay here. You can park your stuff out in our yard. You can create teams, and we can help you create teams, provide facilities, and, of course, pastor care and discipleship. What does beyond us mean? It means beyond our comfort, our walls, our borders, and beyond today. 2024, 18 disasters that we responded to, not local ones, but these were, if you will, our main deployments, including North Carolina and Florida. In fact, my first day on the job, October 9th last year, was the day before Hurricane Milton hit Florida. And we rolled out folks that day, staged them in Mississippi, I believe, on their way to Florida, so that once Hurricane Milton hit, they were ready to go. And then this year, so far, this year. This year in 2025, 12 deployments that we've been a part of. And you'll see in several number 12s, those are all represented by the Hill Country Flooding, Kerrville, San Angelo, Menard, San Saba, Ingram, and Canyon Lake. What kind of hours does that look like for us? 2024, 128,407 volunteer hours. I was reading a study on volunteer management recently, and it was talking about an hour of volunteer. Somebody gives an hour to volunteer, it's worth X amount of money, if you will, in dollars. Does anybody have an idea, just a guess of what that's at? An hour of a volunteer person coming and serving your organization. How much have they kind of decided this year, 2025? Give me an idea.
$35.
$35, very close. Yeah, it was something like 34. If I could look at my notes, I wrote it down. But right around, let's see, I'll back out of that. $34.79.
Good job.
Ready to go. $34.79 nationally. If you were to put that for the 128,000 hours, $4,467,279.53, if you will, was donated and given through that. That's a lot. $35 about an hour worth of volunteer, right? That's an amazing gift. It's an amazing contribution. In 2024, Texans on Mission, we were on deployment 235 days out of last year. You can see the Bibles that were given out, meals prepared, chainsaw jobs, showers, flood recovery, temporary roofs, ministry contacts made, children cared for. We do have a children's group that takes care of kids. If you can imagine, if your house got knocked down, your big flood, this was really used in Katrina and other places hit by hurricanes. When they bring you all together to a certain location, if you even have to stay there, or maybe you're needing to go and talk to all the different national or organizations, helping organizations, you need somebody to watch your kids so that you can go talk to people about housing, about help, so forth and so on. So we provide that. All right, so how can I help? You've heard these three things before: pray, give, and go. Definitely be in prayer for those affected by disaster. You can give. Our number one group of people that help us, that donate to us, is individuals. Over 50% of our funds that come in come from individuals. Others come from churches, organizations, associations. So pray, give, and go. And you can use that QR code if you like. It just, or this one here, either one, or on my card. It gets you to a tell me more form, and I'll get back to you on an email. But questions, thoughts, comments. What has this done that make you think about where you are, your ministry, your church? Yes, sir.
The quick question about the On Mission Network. Are there networks in like Arizona and
Yes, sir.
California and elsewhere?
Yeah, so On Mission Network is an arm, if you will, it's a separate nonprofit organization that partners with Texans on Mission or Texas Baptist Men to help us reach outside of Texas to organizations that want to participate and help. So yes, so we've got partnerships in California, we've got partnerships, I know, in Ohio, partnerships in New York, and others as well, all around our nation, who people have said, we want to do what you guys are doing, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want you guys to help us meet the needs of those affected by disaster. You bet. What else?
If a church wanted to partner with y'all through donations or volunteers or anything like that, what's the best way for us to contact you? Is it through just QR code, or is it?
Yeah, if you want to reach to me directly, and then I can help coordinate that. We also have on our website places for churches to immediately donate. We have a donor department that would then begin reaching out to churches or individuals and begin helping coordinate that, depending on where they want to give. If they want to do a one-time gift, online's a great spot. They want to set up something for recurring giving, monthly budget giving. We can also help associate that. I can connect you to the right people. Good question. If y'all want to help and serve, like we are currently doing church groups, untrained groups, going and serving in Kerrville and San Angelo. And they just say, hey, I've got 10 people that want to go serve. We want to go next week. We can help facilitate that. We have people on place. Now, I would encourage the train side, because then you're ready to go for the next disaster, but we also can send groups ready to go and serve.
What does that look like when they're untrained?
Yeah, so 16 and older, but they have to, if they have 16 and 17, they need a parent or at least some sponsor who's taken responsibility for them. They'll come, we'll provide lodging either at a church or a camp, depending on where we are. We provide the food, and we provide the supplies and the tools. Person would need to come wearing closed-toed shoes, pants, and some sleeves on the shirt. We provide goggles and gloves. Then we have trained people that can do that. So like, for instance, we took a group from Baylor, students came out, and they told them we were cleaning out the house from nails and screws that were in there after they're already clean, getting ready to put in new sheetrock. So we taught them how to put insulation in, how to put sheetrock in. So they can go from no skills to people that come in and have their licenses for electrical, plumbing, you name it. They know how to do tape and floating. They know how to do all of that. And then we'll, okay, here's the house, here's the materials. Let us know what you need. So anywhere in between there, from no skills to truly skilled, we'll find a place for them. And it can be from a day, if you're close enough to drive in and drive out. It can be for one night. You're going to drive in one night, work most of the day, head out, to a week kind of time frame. Good. Yes, ma'am.
How would I don't know if I'm going to frame this question correctly, but how have you seen it? Has a church done it well to where like there's like a group within the church that can, when a disaster comes out, like they have a group ready? Like how does that look
Yes.
like? How does the church even create that?
Sure.
Have you seen that
Yes,
happen?
yes. So, of course, we live in a time where we've got churches of all sizes and all capabilities. And then you've got individuals to large groups that want to help and serve. So for those churches that are large enough to put together their own team, we can help facilitate that. For those churches that are willing to say, you know what, we'll spearhead that team and we'll allow others to connect and join our team. And that's really kind of where we've led a lot of the churches to do. Like we had a church in Brownwood recently that said they wanted to start a chainsaw team. And so, and they had the funds ready to go. We can help them pick a trailer out. We have partnerships with Steel, who does 50% off chainsaws. So we've got all of that lined out. And then we'll partner with that church, and depending on their funding, our funding, we can come up with a negotiation of what that looks like. They can develop that response trailer, whether it's chainsaw, flood recovery, fire recovery, feeding, whatever, shower, laundry. And so we negotiate that, and then we decide, okay, is this church going to fund, are they going to provide, they have enough people? Or, and really, what it comes down to, you almost need 100 people, if you will, a pool of 100 people to get about 10 volunteers. The ratio of ask to receive is about 1 to 10. I don't know if some of the other volunteer organizations, but you start realizing that when you got to go, in the times, in disasters, you can't plan those. Someone said that earlier. You don't plan disasters, right?
Right.
So it happens. All right, who can go? And people have obligations. So we find out it takes about 100 people to get 10. So can y'all do the 100 people, or do you think you probably need and that, some people's ratio is better than that, but that's on average kind of where we are. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. Well, let's wrap up when we can. Let's pray. Can we just end a time of prayer, and let's give some silence and pray for those affected by disaster, specifically the flooding that's happened between Kirk County, Kerrville, San Angelo, Menard, San Saba, other places, if you wouldn't mind. And pray for those that respond. More than just Texans on Mission, other groups have responded and still respond. Churches have responded. Your church maybe have responded. Can we do that for just a minute, and then I'll close this. Heavenly Father, we do come before you today, and we thank you for just who you are. We thank you, God, that you sent your son Jesus to come to this earth that was ravaged by a disaster called sin. And Father, through Jesus, God, we have a way, God, to have our sin forgiven. Father, we can't alleviate that ourselves. We can't deal with that ourselves. We needed help, and that help came from you. So thank you, Father, for sending your son Jesus to die on the cross for our sins, to help us out of that disaster. And Father, now as we consider, Father, those that have been affected by other disasters, natural disasters, man-made disasters, Father, that have come upon them suddenly in a way that's brought immense suffering. Help us to consider what we might do to help alleviate, God, whatever needs to be alleviated, to help them find that help, hope, and healing that ultimately only comes from you. So I pray for each one of these in this room today, Father, and just thank you for who you are. Pray your blessings upon us as we go out and as we consider what you've shared with us today. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for your time. There's some more candy in the back, brochures. I'm here around if you have questions, if I can help. If you need me to come to your church or somebody from our team to come to your church, talk to your missions team. We can help do that. Do a missions fair, whatever that might be. We're willing to help.